It's time for Type 40, a Doctor Who podcast from the Spacebook for the Fandom Podcast Network. I'm Dan Hadley, Birmingham's king of the geeks and your designated driver, and this time bargain hunter, ready to deliver Doctor Who conversation and content here on our free-speaking, big-thinking, eclectic show for everyone. That's whatever decade or century you started watching, reading, or listening along to those ongoing adventures of our hero, Doctor Who. We talk about it all on this show. All views are encouraged, and there could even be a few laughs along the way. So come and step into our TARDIS and share this journey together here with us on Type 40. Yes, back again with another great conversation. Fingers crossed as we plunge into the vortex yet again. Where we're going to end up this time, what are we going to be talking about? You'll have to wait and see, but it's going to be a good one because we're back on the shop floor this time, albeit a couple of time zones away, talking collectibles and merchandise again with my playmate. It's the Lord of the Pre-Orders, the mayor of all things merchandise up in the Doctor Who loft. It can only be my mate, Mr. JT.
Hello, Dan. Thank you for that introduction. Here we are back in my special place, the world I love. Merchandise. Ooh, it's tingly. It's exciting. I love it.
Do you still get that thrill? Genuinely, that thrill from when we were children, when you'd open up a new sort of catalogue and you'd see a lot of toys, or you'd walk into a toy shop for the first time and you'd see what they'd got online in the shelf. Do you still get some of that sensation?
Yeah. To an extent, I really, really do. Nothing's going to beat, back in the 70s when you opened up your mum's catalogue and you saw the Dennis Fisher character action figures, for example, and you just went, I've got to have them! But, yes, with certain things now, although there is an expectation now, of course, because you can wear, it's going to be books, it's going to be CDs, it's going to be Blu-rays, there's a pattern to it all now. But occasionally, just occasionally, something comes along where you think, oh, that's great, that's exciting. So occasionally I'll get those little twinges of just like, come on, yeah. And because I'm a merchandise fiend as well, because I love all my merchandise, obviously it's a real great way to keep in touch with what's going on there and just seeing everything. It's fun, isn't it?
Gotta have it. They call it FOMO now, fear of missing out.
Yeah. Well, there is a lot of that's going on. I would say there's an awful lot of people that have been watching recent years of the show because of that, and I think that's carried on. But it comes too much now. If anything that's happened with merchandise since the return of the show in 2004 into 2005, and then especially with the explosion of merchandise in 2006, once upon a time you were able, believe it or not, to collect everything that came out. Now you can't. I find myself having to be measured. And certainly, who knows what's going to be happening from 2024 onwards.
Yeah, I remember a time where you could keep track of any new merchandise really, really easily. Just the little list that you would keep in your wallet or your back pocket or a little folder. I was really into stationery when I was a kid. Pens, papers, folders, have lists, and I would tick them off and that kind of thing. Now it's a little harder. I think now we need a spreadsheet, a loft, maybe, or perhaps a store. All of our own. There are people out there who are inspired by Doctor Who to go into business and to line shelves, not just domestically, but from floor to ceiling, literally, not just with one of everything, but multiples of everything. And that's where
thank Razalon for them as well.
Well, that's where our guest comes in this time, all the way from America. I'm delighted to welcome. It's our new friend, our new best friend. Might get a couple of freebies if we keep saying that one. From Who North America, it's Keith Bradbury. Hi, Keith.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Keith.
Thank you so much. Glad to be on the show. Really happy to be here.
Welcome to Type 40. I can't wait to hear some of your story because I can't imagine how you could get to a place where you would be surrounded by Doctor Who goodness from floor to ceiling, literally all day, every day. We spoke to Alex from the Who Shop in Great Britain a few months ago now on the show, an extraordinary character with a great story. And I suspect that you've got a very similar tale to tell, or maybe you won't. We'll get stuck into it later on in the show. But have you been a Doctor Who fan all your life?
Well, as soon as it started showing in the United States, I was a big science fiction fan growing up as a kid. So, I grew up with Star Trek reruns. I was too young for the very first episodes, but I grew up with Star Trek reruns. Logan's Run. I loved the TV series.
Yeah.
I watched the TV series Quark in the 70s. It's not anything to do with Deep Space Nine. It was its own series. So I love science fiction. And I caught the first Star Wars movie in the theaters and just went, totally over the top with Star Wars. So I grew up with that. And then Battlestar Galactica, the 79 series, and then Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. All those were some of my favorite shows growing up as a kid. I loved all those. And then after Empire Strikes Back and after Buck Rogers, there was just kind of nothing on TV until the PBS station said that they were going to show a new series called Doctor Who. And this was about 1981. My local PBS station was going to start with the first Fourth Doctor story, Robot, and that's where they began. And it was about 1981 in Central Illinois where I started watching it. And the thing about Doctor Who is I instantly loved the show. I mean, I saw the very first episode of Robot and then just, kept on going. It was a big shock to me as a little kid when we lost Sarah Jane. And it's like, wait, when are you going to go back for Sarah Jane? You can't just leave her here. Series don't leave their main character behind somewhere. But then we moved on and to Leela and all the other things there. So, I was really wrapped up in Doctor Who. But being a kid in the Midwest, you couldn't get any Doctor Who product. I mean, there was no product. So I had all my Star Wars toys from Kenner. I had all this stuff, but I could never play Doctor Who. I could never pretend Doctor Who. I could build like maybe a little TARDIS out of Legos. That was about as close as I could come. Yeah. And so there was always this thing where I was like, man, I would love to see the merchandise someday. And I went to my first convention, probably about 1985, in St. Louis, Missouri. I didn't see any Doctor Who merchandise there either, other than books. You could get the Target novels at the time. The Pinnacle books were coming out. Those were the U.S. version of the Target books. Yeah. You could walk into a Walden Books or something like that and find some Doctor Who books. And then one of my comic stores nearby started having buttons, like little buttons that you could, that was the only Doctor Who stuff you could find. You couldn't find anything else. And so
that's badges over here, isn't it, Keith?
Yeah, it's just
the badges here. There you go.
Badges. Yeah. Badges. Yeah, badges are buttons. Yeah, it's little pin badges. Yeah,
pin badges. Yeah.
So like I said, there was just nothing here. In the 90s, of course, you had the TV movie, and that was kind of a big deal. I saw that when it aired, and the internet was just starting back at that time. And so myself and I started doing this entire website based on Doctor Who because I wanted to list all the episodes because I was really into the missing episodes at the time. And in the late 90s, we were starting to swap VHS tapes of the reconstructions. So I was watching all these the telesnap reconstructions of the audio put with it. And they started out really bad, but then Loose Cannon started doing some really great stuff. So I was really obsessed with that. And as we got the internet and I started doing this fan base where we were chatting about the episodes and all that, and I was reviewing all the episodes, I decided, I'm going to look over in the UK and see if I can find some of the companies making Doctor Who stuff. So the first company
had to grab it all, had to get it all. Keith, this is a rites of passage that certainly I've heard several times, different versions of over the years. I think wherever we are in the world, we have a similar relationship. We get in with, sometimes it's other shows. I think in Britain, actually, more often than not, it is Doctor Who that starts us down that path because it's been going for so long. Yeah. But as regards, watching all those other shows back in the 70s, in the 80s, and it acted as a kind of entry-level drug almost to an entire world and to access part of ourselves as well, to crave escapism and to I suppose to set loose the inner geek and merchandise, acquiring merchandise, celebrating merchandise, and looking forward to new releases. That's one major part of any kind of, I suppose, I don't want to use the word like franchise over because it's such a cold word, isn't it, JT? Intellectual property's no better. But, one of these big properties that exists not just on screen, but in our hearts as well and in our homes. That's all coming up later on in the show. But in the meantime, if you'd like to do some real-time traveling of your own, each and every edition of this show, past, present, and future, is just a tap or two away on the device of your choice, but only if you know where to look. There's well over 100 now reviews, previews, interviews, geek outs, and deep dives with all our regulars and some pretty awesome guests. We know there's something for every fan at type40.podbean.com. There'll be more about all of that a little later on, as well as a moment to connect with the matrix of all knowledge that we call the Fandom Podcast Network for a word about all the other cult conversations going on across some of those other franchises that we talked about a moment ago over there. Okay.
It's amazing, really, isn't it? I mean, you were mentioning there, Keith, that you started watching Robot in 1981, just as we're actually bidding adieu to Tom. How did you find this? I mean, how was it broadcast? Were the episodes broadcast daily, or were they weekly, like we had them traditionally here in the United Kingdom?
In Central Illinois, where I lived, the Champaign-Urbana PBS station was showing them Monday through Friday. Now,
Right.
Chicago was showing them on Saturday and Sunday. So if you watched Monday through Friday, where I lived, you were catching half-hour episodes. And then on Friday and Saturday, I could change the antenna and pick up Chicago, and I could watch the full stories they were showing up there when I found out about it. So I was actually getting it 7 days a week. So I remember about that time, they were, showing Space 1999 back to back with the Muppet Show. They were in the PBS station. The neat thing about that is, as they had a really rabid Doctor Who fan base that was going on there. So PBS started looking for other shows to get, and that's where we started seeing stuff like Blake 7, Star Cops, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the original series, the miniseries. We got Blake 7. Did I say Blake 7? Oh, we got Red Dwarf. So all those things started really taking off because of the fan base for the Doctor Who with PBS.
Wow, that's amazing. Really, really amazing to think that it just stemmed from a 1974 story, really, isn't it? That's brilliant.
Yeah.
I suppose that another thing that unites us all really is that, particularly when you're kept on rations for this stuff, so when you have to go and seek it out, you become more and more determined, more resourceful, whether it's to see reconstructions or just more episodes in whatever form that we have, that we can, or just to see something that we liked a lot the first time. And we loved it when we were kids, and it lives on in our memory. So we have to track it down again, have to see it again, all promoting that simple love of Doctor Who in this case, and that a connection that we have, I think, on a really personal level, and how we expand on that can also be in very personal and idiosyncratic ways. I know you've got a great story to tell. Let's go hear some of that now. Get stuck in with Keith Bradbury.
Yeah.
Yeah, so JT, you and I know, in fact, you more than most, as a fan of this series of the Whoniverse, just as we love the Doctor and the Daleks and everything, or the companions, everybody associated with the show on screen, and we want to be pulled into their world for 25 minutes every Saturday when we were kids, and however long it is now. But just as that's true, we're also compelled to bring them back into ours. Appreciating Doctor Who is not a passive thing, and Doctor Who merchandising opportunities were famously seized in Britain within months of the series beginning, but it did take a little longer to begin overseas, didn't it?
It absolutely did. I mean, the reason that Doctor Who merchandise took off, as we all know, was the huge success in late 1963 of the Daleks. And everybody wanted to have a Dalek. There were kids over here, Keith, in the playgrounds at schools playing Daleks and exterminating all their teachers. It was just so fun. And so what happened, of course, is that the license, or rather the manufacturers that were around back in the day suddenly started producing licensed toys based around the Daleks. And that gave way to the BBC actually setting up a particular department, which is now the mighty BBC Studios. So that's where it all started for all of us, and certainly where it started for you in a sense as well.
Yeah. And the really amazing thing about Doctor Who is that it was, the more I watched, the more I realized there was more there. Because with Star Wars, by 1983, you had 6 hours worth of TV. I mean, 6 hours worth of movie, and that's it. You had maybe your 2 Ewok adventures. You might have had your really bad cartoons. You may have had your Christmas special. That Star Wars Holiday Special was terrible, but you didn't have a lot of viewing hours of it. And the same was true with Battlestar Galactica. The same was true with Star Trek. I mean, we'd seen the reruns so many times, but as they were going through the 4th Doctor, when they got to the end, they went on to the 5th Doctor, and that was a big shock to all of us. But then they started going to get back the old black and whites and start showing the old stuff. So there was always more Doctor Who that you hadn't seen, and it was an entire world that was so much bigger than anything in any other science fiction series that we just totally knew nothing about before that. So.
But that's interesting you say that, Keith, because it's always really eluded me how Doctor Who has become successful in other countries. I mean, you're mentioning there that you were watching this show at a time where there was something called Buck Rogers with some sort of rip-off computer in it, and you had all these American things. What's that thing, Galactica Battlestar or something ridiculous like that? You know, you had all these other things, Trek something. Yeah, so all these other shows, what actually, this funny little tea time show broadcast anywhere between 5 and 6 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon in Britain, which had been going in 1981 by 18 years. What attracted you? You're watching all these big throw money at them glossy things from your neck of the woods. Yeah, but Dan, what gets them involved? What attracted you to start watching this? It really, really is, because you look at what you lot are all watching, all those big multi-million-dollar things, and then you watch ours, which is done on 10 pence. What really got you into it, Keith?
Tom Baker. He was everything about him. He's so much larger than life. He's so magnetic as a personality that there was no one like him on television. I mean, he was so, drew everybody in. And I think that's one of the things that really captured a lot of us, especially in the States.
Larger than life, isn't he, Tom? Not just the grin, everything about him, and not in any way. I think he can be unnerving at times, but you wouldn't say he's scary. There's something very warm and inviting about, benevolent. That's the word. Is it benevolent about Tom? Even with the deep voice and the fact he's a very tall man.
And it helped, I think, for the American audience, especially too, that he's very easy for us to understand. I mean, there's times like Eccleston or Sylvester McCoy are very difficult to understand because of their accents or their trills, or when they trill their R's. But Tom Baker was very clear, very easy for us to understand. So it wasn't like some of the other British television that we'd seen, where we kind of, it's like probably most of us had seen Benny Hill or Monty Python and that sort of stuff. That was our exposure to British TV, and it was the funny accents, it was the funny walks, it was all that kind of stuff. But then Doctor Who, there was, it was the charisma of the main character. I mean, it was just, he was so, he was so magnetic. You can't not watch him.
Yeah. So magnetic, in fact, that it had this profound pulling power on you, and it seems to have really taken hold of your life in a pretty major way. So you are the owner, the founder, the day-to-day runner of Who North America, aren't you? So what is Who North America? Where are you based, and what do you do?
Okay, well, Who North America is America's largest Doctor Who store dedicated solely to the show. It's located just outside of Indianapolis, Indiana, which is in the Midwest. Which you say Midwest, but it's actually more east. But anyway, we've got about our facility is about 3,200 square feet. You have to convert that to metrics for
okay.
UK people. But we've been in business since 1998. That's when we started, and it all really just started in my office on a shelf when I really wanted to get some toys. I still love toys, and so I wanted to get some Doctor Who toys. The company that was making the toys at the time was Daypole, and that's our old sign. And so I contacted Daypole, and they said, "Well, we don't really have anyone bringing any toys in the United States right now, but if you'll commit to buying $1,000 worth of merchandise, or £1,000 probably." We'll be happy to supply you some. And so I talked my wife into it. And we were dirt poor at the time, so it was really kind of arm twisting going on with my wife. But she was like, "All right, if you think you can do something with it, go ahead." And so I did. And within a week, I had to order more. Everything just sold like that.
No way! Within a week.
Within a week, everything was gone. And so
did you have a background? Did you have a background in sales, Keith?
Well, other than I worked at a bookstore when I was in college and a couple of things like that. No, I had I was doing other stuff at the time. This was just kind of me doing hobby stuff, learning the internet.
Yeah.
So I had no interest to actually start a business. That wasn't why I was doing it. I was just a fan of the show. And I figured if I can get some of this in, I can keep one for myself and then sell the rest. And that was kind of, because I wanted to have some of this stuff that I never had as a kid.
So you took this stuff from Dayport. How did you sell it? Because you didn't have the shop back then, obviously. How did you do that?
No, I had done that fan website I talked about where we were reviewing the episodes and people were actually in there chatting on things. And so I finally put up a page saying, I've got these toys, and if you want to buy them, this is how you can do it. And we started out doing checks, and then we went to PayPal because PayPal was right then. This is 1998. So this is when Amazon was still a bookstore. eBay had not gone public. We were back in those early days of the internet. Everything before that was 800 Trekker and their catalog. If you want to get Doctor Who stuff, it was in a catalog, and you paid through the nose for that kind of stuff. We came along with little overhead, and we were able to sell this stuff so cheap that people were just snapping it up like that.
And you'd already got a captive audience. It's the equivalent of getting a mailing list together now, isn't it? If you've built a little community there, you say, okay, you guys love this stuff. I can get you more of this stuff. Here's how.
Yeah, and then from there it was Big Finish. They were not doing the Doctor Who ones yet, but they were doing the Bernice Summerfield. So we picked up with some of the audios there. We were the first 4 audios is where we began with them. Oh no, it isn't, and those
on cassette.
And then Ultimate Buckles was early, and so was Aqua Gennaro. I remember them doing watches. So those were some of the earliest Doctor Who items that we had. And then Cornerstone trading cards. And then I talked to a comic book store that was near me, and I said, "Do you have any of the Doctor Who comics?" So, "Oh yeah, we got a box of them sitting in the back. Nobody buys them anymore. We don't even put them out for sale because nobody's interested in them." I said, "I'll buy them all." And so I just started selling the old Tom Baker comics that were just sitting in a box in the back of a comic store.
Were they the Marvel ones? The reprints from the British one? Yeah.
Original Marvels. The original.
And they're worth something now. Some of them are worth something now, Keith. I hope you've got some in the shop.
I still sell them whenever I get them. So if I get some, I sell them at a reasonable price.
Wow.
So $5. I have Marvel Doctor Who comics for $5, which is about £4.40 or something like that.
Well, depends what day you're viewing this, to be quite honest, Keith. I mean,
but it's because I've always tried to be reasonable. That's my job has never been to. It's not for me. It's not about the money. It's about, the fan base and really trying to kind of be that conduit for them so they can get some stuff they wouldn't get otherwise. So,
yeah.
So you started very, very much as you said, as the internet was starting to take a root in our day-to-day lives and starting to come up with new ways of getting us the things that we crave, that we want to get hold of, getting them to us that little bit quicker. It sounds to me like you were a little bit ahead of your time here, Keith.
Well, right time at the right place, I guess. It was just kind of a personal obsession with me because I was wanting to find those missing episodes at the time. I remember in the late 90s, it was like, hey, the internet's coming in. We can find those missing episodes. All we got to do is advertise that they're missing and find out who's got them. And that was how naive we were back in the day. It's just like, it's like, oh, there's our episode, because I think they'd found one or two. It's like, oh, they're finding them in different places. We'll use the internet to locate these things. And of course, it was a very slow reveal. We had no part in any of finding. Of course,
you were doing all this before Doctor Who ever came back to television. So it's one thing for it to have been a small cultish thing in the States that people may have seen, may have caught a few minutes off, but might not have registered with them. A literal cult. Then it comes back to television, changes the ball game completely. But you've been in business the entire time now, haven't you? Yeah. Over 20 years doing this. You've seen all of these changes, and you've expanded. You've expanded enormously throughout these 2 decades, haven't you?
Yeah. It started out with, like I said, just a shelf in my office, and then it took up the hallway because I had stacks and stacks of Doctor Who books in the hallway. So our family and our children had to walk past these stacks of books and have to hold them for orders. Then it took the garage. Then I had to get a U store, which is one of those, storage facility type thing. I put stuff in there and had to try to climb. But I was going in the middle of winter with no heat in there, and my hands were freezing. I was using my hot shrink wrap gun to keep my hands warm because I could barely wrap these packages, and then I'd have to run them every day to the post office. And that was my, that was what I was doing every single day, just going to that used store facility. Then we moved from there to a office and warehouse. And then now we have a full retail facility. So,
and this momentum continued as presumably as not just as people found out about you, but as the series came back to television, the fandom started to grow again. How on earth did you keep up with this?
Yeah, it was funny that, because we'd been in business 7 years when the new series kicked in.
Yeah.
So we were positioned very well, and we were in a good position because a lot of people knew us. A lot of the people from before that, you got to realize, Nick Briggs was at Big Finish. These other people, we knew him from authors. We knew Russell T Davies was before he was ever on Doctor Who. We carried his books. So, we had a working knowledge of a lot of these people. And it was funny because when we started getting stuff, basically some of the UK companies were contacting us saying, we know you're selling Doctor Who over there. We want to make sure you carry our product.
Wow.
And that was a total change from before, where it was like I had to go dig. Now there were companies that were coming to us and saying, we got some new Doctor Who stuff. You want to carry it? And so,
that's great.
Yeah.
Because they knew you'd got the customer base. You'd started to grow the connections. You'd got longevity too.
Yeah. So it's funny that we just kind of moved into our big space when the new series kicked off, which just kind of was, serendipity, if you want to say that. Mm-hmm. And from that point on, it was just taking off. It was a rocket going after that. So, and then now it's kind of back to earth a bit. I mean, we're nowhere near what we were like, say, first season of Eccleston, second, through the second season of Tennant.
Yeah.
But those were kind of the highlight years. Then it dipped a bit. It was really like hitting the brakes when the year of specials came out, because it's like everybody just went and watched something else because. If there's not new episodes coming out all the time, people just go and move on to something else. But then 50th anniversary year took off again, really big. But then post that, it's been really, kind of back down to, we're still doing a lot more business we did than the first 7 years ever, but it's not where it was during those Tennant, Eccleston Tennant years when things were taking off.
It's peaks and troughs, and you have to be, I suppose, quite aware of the market of what's coming next, not just what sells.
Don't get into that. Don't get into that.
I meant more lines of merchandise, really. What innovations were coming, what licenses had been optioned, what to expect, and and stay in tune with the fan base as well to hear what we are still talking about, what we want.
Right, and that's one of the things. With this track record that we have, we kind of know what people want long term. And so as there have been issues with, and I hear that suppliers are dropping the license or whatever, if it's something that's really important, we'll buy a large stock of it, because we know for years down the line, people are still going to want that particular item. It's like the disappearing TARDIS mug. Everybody wants a disappearing TARDIS mug. So we want to get enough because they dropped the license to do the disappearing TARDIS mug. We want to carry a lot. So
yeah.
See, that's
and you've got the place to put it as well, haven't you? Because your store is so big. Amazing.
Yeah. We actually have approximately about $500,000 worth of Doctor Who inventory for sale. That's our wholesale cost of inventory at this point. So, and
you've moved physical location. Was it 3 times there?
Probably 4 times, I think. So this is the first property we've actually owned. We actually own this building. So this is our building. We don't, we're not under landlords any longer, which is a good thing.
Did you convert that from something else then into Who NA?
Yes. It was Vincent Furs. It was a fur shop back in the day. So they sold fur coats, high-end fur coats. There are 2 full bank vaults in here. I mean that's this was a high-end building. Had lovely stone architecture inside the building, cedar walls, absolutely gorgeous, and it had been sitting vacant for years. I mean, because they went out of business before 2000, and then we've been in we've been in here 8 years now. So it was sitting vacant for a long time. Nobody was it's a little bit out away from the city, and things aren't growing as fast this way as they were on the northeast side, but it was relatively close to us. It was actually only 8 miles from our old location. So we're like, that's a great building, we can use that, and it's been perfect for us. So people drive here to see it. We have people coming from everywhere to come see us. So
you've got a car parking space as well, haven't you?
Yes, it's car parking spaces. Yeah, and we're able to do all kinds of cool stuff, big events and all.
So it's not just a store, it's not just a warehouse, it's a low-level tourist destination.
Yeah,
it's
a destination.
For those who are in
state of Indiana promotes us. So does Hendricks County, the county
really?
we're in. Yeah, they all put us in their stuff of things to do and see in Indiana, and
wow.
We have television stations come here fairly, every once in a while and do stories. So that's really good. We've had all the local TV stations. I've been on every local TV station here.
So you're kind of a figure, not just a figure of the Doctor Who community, but a figure of the community. I would imagine everybody knows where that Doctor Who store is.
Yeah, it's unique. It's everything else is chain, and we're just kind of something that's totally different, and that's kind of what makes us an interesting place, because nobody wants to hear about your local Walmart unless there's a shooting or something. I mean, nobody wants to hear about what they've got, because it's like Walmarts are everywhere. Right. But we're just kind of off the wall different, and we get a lot of people all the time. Is there really that much business? You can have an entire store devoted to this?
Yeah.
People wonder that all the time. I've had people think you probably aren't going to be in business much longer. Well, it's been 24 years. I hope I'm still in business for a little longer. So
I'm sure you will be, because of course we've got the Renaissance coming for 2023 onwards. We've got the 60th anniversary to get through. Then of course we've got the rebirth, if you like, with the Shooty Doctor coming through. Lots of stuff coming for him, to promote him when it comes to merchandise. So, I'm sure you're going to be around for quite a while, and also kept very busy.
Yeah, and one of the things that happened when the new series launched originally, I know this happened in the UK because we have close relationships with some of them, is that when the new series launched and everybody wanted Doctor Who stuff, a lot of the places like 10th Planet and all of that started having real problems, because now you could walk into other stores and get Doctor Who stuff, and they were really facing a problem that, hey, the show's not supporting us anymore. They just want to be in B&M and places like Tesco's. They want to be in the big stores. They don't care about the little stores. So we're kind of writing that thing where, you're not going to walk into Walmart here and find Doctor Who stuff typically, although every once in a while you will. But you can scrounge around some different big stores, maybe find something like the Funko Pops at different times or whatever. But we've been really able to hit that niche market and stay in that, and not have as much competition as I know some of our brethren in the UK did during the new series launch. So absolutely, because I'm sure a lot of you guys know Forbidden Planet, 10th Planet, and all those retailers on that end, and had a history with them. And
these were long-standing figures, I suppose, of the Doctor Who community. We would see their adverts in Doctor Who magazine, and some of the other fanzines and magazines too. Things like Dreamwatch and SFX. They would carry adverts for a lot of these places. And if we were traveling around the UK, I don't know if this is the same for you, JT. If I knew I was going to Blackpool, for example, I'd make sure that I looked in at Thunderbooks.
Mm-hmm. Well, Blackpool were always, for me back in the day, of course, we didn't need to go anywhere else because I just went to the exhibition. Just went there and went into their shop and spent probably more time in the shop than had to. But yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, we're lucky because obviously with it being the show's home here, everybody grew up with it as well. So all these other bits and pieces you get. But you're right, Keith, and it's interesting to see that, where it affected our retailers, the show coming back, because it was mass marketed. All the merchandise that went through, it was available absolutely everywhere. And as I've said before, a lot of it was used as a loss leader to get people through the door. And it worked. Whereas for the smaller businesses, some of whom aren't actually with us anymore now, unfortunately, partly because of that effect, the backlog there. And I just hope it doesn't happen again next year and the year after. But you do have that monopoly there. You're able to stock absolutely everything and then keep it in stock and not discard it very quickly, because somebody's going to want that at some point.
Oh yeah, and in those early days, 10th Planet and the Who Shop both helped us get product, supplied us with stuff. We'd get it from them. A syfy collector.uk and different. Just a lot of different ones who are doing the Doctor Who stuff. Stamp Center. They would help us get Doctor Who product. So they were actually helping us get the things that we couldn't get normally, and everybody wanted it. So it didn't matter if it had Doctor Who on it. We could. It was moving through here really quick and doing very well. So that's.
What's your best sellers, Keith?
Every month we sell the magazine when it comes out. So Doctor Who magazine has been a long-standing thing that we sell every single month.
Wow.
So We moved through that. In store, mugs and T-shirts are some of the biggest sellers. That tends to be the biggest stuff. Online, everything that people buy online is totally different than what people buy in store. When people come in the store, they want stickers for their cars, they want mugs, and they want T-shirts. When people are ordering online, they want the toys, action figures, and the Eagle Moss and that sort of thing. So it's two totally different groups of people that buy things. I don't sell hardly any toys in store. You'd be really surprised. People don't come here and buy stacks of toys, but they do come in here and they'll pick up the socks, Doctor Who socks. We sell a lot of Doctor Who socks. They'll all want a Tom Baker scarf or whatever. I mean, that kind of stuff will sell in store, clothing items, but online it's a totally different market. So there's two markets we're catering to, and it's an interesting, it's interesting that difference there.
Well, that's initially quite surprising, but I suppose it's the way that the world has changed, the way that shopping has changed, and also the rise of geek culture generally too, because it's not Doctor Who's fortunes have sort of peaked and troughed as well, but geek culture does seem to get bigger and bigger and bigger, doesn't it? You do wonder when is the bubble going to burst on things like the Marvel Cinematic Universe and some of those other big properties on Star Wars and all that. But it doesn't. It seems to extend. Geek culture does seem to just get bigger and bigger and bigger. Practically everybody says they're a geek, and I suppose with your sort of dual status as a tourist destination as well as a merchandiser, you got people who say, oh yeah, I went there, I may not know much about this show, but that looks fun, that looks cute, I'll have that, it's something to talk about, something to remind me of my trip or whatever too. You've got that value, that value as well.
And it's been a fantastic thing because I love meeting people. It's one of the best part of being here is seeing people's eyes light up when they walk in and see the TARDIS. I mean, it's just one of those things where I love to see people's reaction, or when they see the Daleks and stuff like that, because they don't see that in real life. They don't get to see that sort of thing, and it just, that's what you do it for. I mean, there are some things about this store that I absolutely despise. Every day, for every day of the year, I have to listen to Christmas with the Dalek coming in on our Insta playlist every single day of every single year for the last how many years?
I was going to say, JT, that we hear versions of this story quite regularly, don't we? When we talk to other fans, but not so much with the Christmas with the Dalek.
Change the tape, Keith.
In the equation.
Get the new tape.
My wife said I've got to keep it on the list because she likes the song.
Oh, good grief! Okay.
It's one of those things where, it hasn't really damaged our relationship that much yet, but you never know.
I think it's wonderful as well. I mean, you mentioned that you've got your TARDIS in there. With you being in America, people that come into your shop mustn't see things like the police box or the Daleks around as much as we do in the UK, because you can go practically anywhere in the UK to this moment in time as well, especially a BBC building, of which they are scattered throughout the UK, and you can see a police box, or you can see the Dalek presence in there. We've got various exhibitions and museums traveling around the country where you can go and see all the props from the series. So it must be wonderful for them to come in and actually see the TARDIS in there. I love that.
Yeah, having some life-size things has always been one of the cool things about the story, because people get to see it up front and close and personal. We get people all the time saying that they saw our big sign right in front of our store, and they saw the TARDIS on it, and they spun around and came in. And they get that all the time, saying, "We're just driving by, we're heading toward the airport, and we saw that." And it's like, because we're actually on the route from the middle to the southern part of the state to the airport, Indianapolis International Airport.
You are responsible for people missing many, many planes.
We got a lot of people who Uber over from the airport. They got a little layover and they Uber over, and it's only 15 minutes from the airport. There's no traffic between us and the airport, so I mean, you can come in here and spend.
Where do you get this from? We're currently seeing a picture there for people that can watch us on the YouTube channel. We're seeing a picture of your police box. You do have the Dalek as well. Where do you get a police box?
We build it. So we built that.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, we originally designed it for conventions, because we'd go to conventions like Gen Con and things like that, and we made it so that two sides are the TARDIS, the other side is actually a product display. So if you were to look at the other side, it's actually an open area product. And the reason we did that is because floor space is a premium at a convention, but everybody wants to see the TARDIS. So we put the TARDIS, and the thing is huge. I mean, you're talking about with the light on top, and it blinks and it goes off and everything. And I mean, it stands pretty much over all the, you know, the banners, and, you know, because how big it is, it's, you know, what, over 8 foot. So, you know, it was really good for that. Now we don't do conventions any longer, but that's where it all started for. We just needed something that would really draw people and let them know this is Doctor Who here. And that was it. I do
admire the audacity of everything that you seem to do with this store, from that tiny acorn of you needing to get some stock out of the house, so that people could walk around in there, now to owning this warehouse full of Doctor Who stock and a TARDIS too, and being a genuine tourist destination for people. It really is quite a story, Keith. What have you got a particular highlight of all your years so far?
Well, I mean, we've gotten to the point where we've done quite a few different events with different actors, which has been kind of where, you know, you wanted to do things eventually. So the 5th Doctor and the 7th Doctor, Sylvester McCoy, Peter Davison, Caitlin Blackwood has been to our shop, and did a signing. So it was really fun. She's young Amy Pond.
Of course. Yeah.
So Sophie Aldred, we've done some stuff with her. So that's kind of the cool things. A lot of times we were asked to show up at conventions where Doctor Who actors were. Yeah. So when Wizard World was having David Tennant and Matt Smith and all that, they would basically say, hey, we'd like for you to come and sell some Doctor Who stuff at our convention. So we started doing a bit of that. One of the things
it's lovely that people come to you rather than you having to go to them.
Yeah, they were coming to us, you know, and asking us to be a vendor because, you know, they really wanted to push Doctor Who, and they knew we were a big Doctor Who supplier.
And they know you've got the stock.
Yeah. So we did that. One of the things about like the big conventions like Wizard World is people end up spending so much money on the tickets and the autographs. I mean, you're talking about a couple $100 just to get David Tennant's autograph. And if Billy Piper is there, or if, you know, Donna Noble, you know, or one of the other actors or actresses is there, then it even goes up further. So people weren't really buying a lot of merchandise at the shop, not enough to make it worth our while to do a lot of those things, because Wizard World and was just charging an arm and a leg. I mean, you got your ticket price, then you got your autograph price on top of it, and the average family would spend $400 or $500 just to go to a convention and get his autograph and maybe a photograph. So they're not going to spend $50, $60, $70 in our shop because they're already spent all this money. So we kind of stopped doing conventions for that very reason. And if we do something, we kind of want to do it on our own, to where it's like, you know, we've got a little bit more of control of what's going on.
That's the whole problem. I'm glad you said that, Keith, because that is a real concern at the moment. How, you know, you're absolutely bang on the nail. People are going to be spending so much for a ticket, then they spend so much just for a scroll on a photograph. They're paying for the photograph as well. You're looking at hundreds and hundreds of pounds just for a day, if, you know, more so for a weekend.
Right.
And they're not really thinking about people like you that are giving up time away from your business. You're traveling, so you've got your travel expenses, you're bringing all the stock there, you're setting up, you've got possibly a member of staff with you as well. You know, and selling or doing that, and they're taking away some of the money for yourself for that very reason. And I think people need to start listening to that a little bit more across the world, really, because that's all that's become, isn't it? That industry.
Yeah, it's like Gen Con was one of the biggest ones. It's a local convention here in Indianapolis, and we needed 4 10x10 spaces to display everything. By the time we're done with Gen Con, we spent just on the booth space and internet and everything alone, because we have to have all that, over $10,000.
Woo! And you're not getting a return on that.
Just to display. Yeah, and because you can't get new Doctor Who product any longer in a lot of places, because a lot of these, you know, they're not, you know, a lot of the licensees have dropped their license. You're just giving the product away by the time it's done, because even if you breaking even is not what it's about, because you can't replenish this stuff any longer. So it's really why we're just a lot more internal now than we used to be. I mean, we've grown to the point where we want to be internal and do our thing. And, you know, we'd love to be at a lot more conventions where the actors are at, because, you know, we want to support the actors, but it's just, you can't afford to do it anymore, you know, the way it was in the past. So
what we need to do is we need to use this.
For selfies. You get a selfie on your camera. You got to pay for that.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
You know, I mean, and it's like, you know, I mean, they're just, you know, I get it. You know, you got to pay the airfare. You got to pay their call out fees. And everything. But for us as a vendor, it's like, you can't really be part of that world any longer, which is sad, but you know, that's how things have changed in the last few years. So
you say sad, but you do sound very energized by what you do.
Oh yeah. I mean, I used to love doing conventions because I see a lot of people hadn't seen for a long time. There's a lot of the same people who kind of go to this stuff, and a lot of the people who sell other things are big Doctor Who fans. So you'd always kind of see some of the same people. And some of these people were big publishers, or Will Wheaton would always come by, because Will Wheaton of Star Trek Next Generation, big Doctor Who fan. He'd buy stuff from us. Brent Spiner would come and buy stuff from us. So, you have all these, I don't want to name drop, but it's like you'd get some, it was kind of cool. You get these people come in. The guy who played Darth Maul, I forget his name, he came into our thing and bought, and hung out and chatted for a bit. So, I mean, a lot of these people are real Doctor Who fans, and you kind of rub shoulders with people like that. It's kind of fun. John Rhys Davies, I think, spent an hour and a half talking about he needs to talk to his manager about getting on Doctor Who, because that would be great. So I mean, and it was delightful chatting with. So it's like you get that at a convention where you don't get it in our store. But in the end, it's like you can't afford it any longer, unfortunately. But it was fun, brushing shoulders with a lot of the different people who you find out, they're a Doctor Who fan. That's cool.
Yeah. It's amazing because we're everywhere.
Yes.
It's frightening.
Literally everywhere. And are you open? Do you open 7 days a week?
6 days a week. We're open Monday through Saturday. Yeah. We're closed on Sundays. So there's no shipping on Sundays. So half of our business is online, half of our business is in store. And we need both to be functioning as far as, normal business and everything like that. And so we get a day off when there's no shipping going on. So Sunday's our day off.
Fantastic. We're talking about a little bit of time off. I think that it's time that we nipped out for lunch. Flip that little sign, but we'll be back in a mo. Of course we will. And we're going to shoot you off into a parallel universe, which is filled with unmissable geeky talk and amazing analysis, courtesy of our friends on all those other shows across the Fandom Podcast Network. Here's a few words about all of that. Then you can meet Keith, JT, and myself back here for more talk about Who, America with Keith, and maybe a tour. We're going to go extra dimensional. We're going to have a nice tour around Keith's store too. You're not going to want to miss that. We're back in a couple of minutes.
Thank you for listening. We hope you're enjoying this podcast. Here are the other great shows on the Fandom Podcast Network. Culture Clash, where we discuss the latest in entertainment and pop culture. Blood of Kings, our show covering the entire Highlander universe. Couch Potato Theater, we celebrate our favorite movies. And Time Warp, our fandom flashback show discussing a year in movies and our favorite retro movie, TV, and pop culture topics. Good Evening, discussing all things Alfred Hitchcock. Hair Metal Podcast, we cover the rock metal music of the 80s and early 90s. Type 40, a Doctor Who podcast, discussing the time-traveling Doctor Who universe. Lethal Mullet, an action film podcast covering the 80s, 90s, and beyond. Also, check out the Lethal Mullet Network for more great podcasts. What a Piece of Junk, our Star Wars podcast. Making Treks, a Star Trek podcast with a deep dive into the final frontier. The Fandom Show, our Fandom Podcast Network live YouTube show discussing the hottest topics in fandom. The True Believers MCU podcast discussing the Marvel Cinematic and Television Universe. Union Federation, our Star Trek and the Orville show. And we're proud to welcome the BQN Network to the Fandom Podcast Network. Please visit our friends on the BQN Network, a Star Trek Universe podcast that also includes your favorite topics, movies, history, superheroes, and more. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on YouTube. The Fandom Podcast Network is also on all major podcast platforms. The Fandom Podcast Network audio master feed is on Podbean at fpnet.podbean.com. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can email us at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, respect others and enjoy your fandom.
Yes, we've teased and tantalized you there, and we can even clothe you too. There's merch to match all of those shows, including Type 40. If you head over to teepublic.com, search for the Fandom Podcast Network, and there you'll find another store full of all the team colors for all of those podcasts, on everything from t-shirts to phone cases and all the way up to enormous tapestries. Seeing is believing. Treat yourself, treat your other selves, and it all goes to support the Fandom Podcast Network into the bargain. So everybody wins. Keith's still open for business, and of course, Christmas is looming on the calendar as of time of recording. You may want to get something for yourself or the other Whovians, Hoonatics, whatever else in your life. Keith is going to give us a tour of his store, and we're going to see some of the wonders that lie within his doors, within his walls. If we just give him a moment or two.
I'm excited.
I'm
excited.
Keith. I'm very excited. I'm very excited indeed.
You can get rid of the other one because I'm not on the other one.
There we go. That was the Dalek. There's the TARDIS. Keith, can we have a look at the way that you've...
I told you how this TARDIS is actually a display cabinet, so you can see how.
Okay, so what we're looking at now is Keith's the inside of Keith's store here.
We got tons of Doctor Who mugs, Jammy Dodgers, Jelly Babies, some Daypole figures there still. Latest of the Big Finish CDs.
Wow.
And if you are interested in Big Finish CDs, we've got lots of Big Finish CDs.
Slow down, Keith. I've got to make a list here.
Well stocked with range upon range there.
I hope you can hear me.
It looks absolutely huge.
I have you on mute on this. There we go. Now I will be able to hear you.
Can you hear us now?
Now I can hear you. Yes. There we go.
Brilliant.
Okay. And this is, of course, of our DVD section. We've got DVDs and Blu-rays over through here.
Lovely. And are they constant sellers for you, Keith?
Oh, yes. Yeah, we sell lots and lots of DVDs and Blu-rays. You can sell T-shirts.
Physical media still a draw. Oh, the T-shirts you were talking about there, lots and lots of them.
Yes, lots and lots of T-shirts. I can actually show you. So, keep calm. I'm the Doctor. My favorite, Fourth Doctor. So lots of things over there. Let's go down this aisle over this way.
Oh, good.
Do you have a changing room?
Well, we've got full-length mirrors. I'll show you those in a second.
That's even better.
Here you can see some of the pop figures we've got. Most of them are the latest. Then there's some Titans.
I have to say, Keith, as a collector, I love the way everything's presented. It's all face out. It's all looking neat. It's very attractive. I just want to come along and mess everything up as I go through all your merchandise. Absolutely gorgeously presented.
Oh, you're one of those.
I am, love. Yes. Oh, look, turn to the right. Turn to the right.
Turn to the right.
Let's have a look at that. What have you got in stock there?
Okay.
Now, look, Facebookers, what we're seeing at the moment are the much sought after in the UK Sarah Jane Adventures character options ranges. They are really, really, really rare in this country.
I haven't seen any of those for years.
Yeah. And what a lovely range you've got there. So, Clockwork Man.
One of my favorites. 12-inch.
Beautiful. And do I spice some of the allegedly exclusive B&M range character option figures there, Keith?
Actually, you will. In the US, we got this one. So I know in the B&M had this one originally. We got all.
Yes, they did. Yeah. Yeah.
But yes, I do have some of the B&Ms. Here we go. 8th Doctor and 10th Doctor right there.
So that actually answers some of the questions I get through on Type 40 Life for Merchandise Paradise from some of our American Spacebookers wanting to know where they can get them. There you go, everybody. Oh, there's the robot looking gorgeous. Oh my goodness me! Look at all those.
You can reach out. You can almost touch these things. It's absolute agony.
There is absolute problem at the moment because I can almost. Oh look, there's a Dapol 25th anniversary set. I am almost at my credit card right now, Keith.
I remember that set coming out, the Dapol one. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got that. Lovely.
Oh, and here's where
wonderful.
I have to straighten something. Somebody messed something up. There.
Gorgeous. Yeah, that's gorgeous.
That you have to put up with me straightening things as I walk through here. Lots of fridge magnets. That's a big thing in store. Lots of people buy fridge magnets.
Yeah.
So
it's only when you see such as your Dalek there. I noticed you got a Dalek at your entrance.
Yes.
It's only when you see that because it's a little hard to gauge exactly how big the store is. But when you see something like a Dalek, which most of us fans have been around, an everyday item, you think, okay, that is huge. Yeah.
Gorgeous. Absolutely fabulous.
All right.
I've seen the masks hung up and everything. Yeah, I haven't seen anything like this in the UK for a long, long time. I think the Who shop is pretty much the only one. One left that I can think of. Yeah,
because we don't really include Forbidden Planets because that's just so small when it comes
to
the
You get to see on the full-length mirror our fun rig using a chair and a camera and a laptop. So you can see how we're doing
that's
this.
something that certainly the third Doctor would have rigged up something like that.
Absolutely.
So
is that a fur coat? Is that left over from the previous store? Oh no, it's a leather jacket. There we go.
No, that is a War Doctor leather jacket. That is probably one of the most expensive items in the store.
Do you find that you sell much of the merchandise that has got the Union Jack on it, the stuff that's quite British and has that national identity?
Oh yeah, we do some of that. I mean, it's not a huge thing. Most people are wanting something that's kind of specific. Here you can see some of the socks. Those are a big deal. Lots of people like those. Or you can get your boat sacks and sign, so you can put it in your yard to the collection period.
Yeah, midterms. Yeah, get sacks in here. Yeah.
Look at this. Absolutely fabulous.
So, yeah, here's where Blake 7 and Red Dwarf and everything else like that is over in this side.
And that's something that we need to point out. The fact is that you do have you actually spun off into the other the other science fiction films and shows, haven't you? You've got stuff there. It's not just all Doctor Who.
Yeah, and Torchwood. This is the Torchwood section here, and then we do have a sizable book section. This is the nonfiction side on that side, and then there's a fiction side this way. All right. So you see all the books that we've got. Dwindling Sarah Jane Adventures section. Not much left of hers anymore, sadly.
No, it's sad, but that's the way we go.
So it was finished over 10 years ago now. And look at that TARDIS. It looks spectacular.
It really does, doesn't it? That's such a clever idea. If you've got the space, that's how you want to present some of the merchandise you can get. It's gorgeous.
See, I have to have on that, have to have the Fourth Doctor outfit out there for everybody to see.
I wonder for a minute.
This is our museum section.
Now, I'd seen this because I've been on your website and I'd seen talk of a museum. Well, how on earth did this come about?
I said I was trying to save one item every time I got something in. I could probably fill out twice as much cabinets. I've got a lot of the stuff in storage. I can't get it all out yet. But,
is this your personal collection, Keith?
Well, I technically say it belongs to the store, but I own the store, so yeah.
Yeah.
All the big items on top.
Slightly different atmosphere. You've got the black cabinets. You've got the lighting there, the glittering, almost Christmassy lights, and another TARDIS.
Yeah, that's the TARDIS wardrobe. Let me flip over here so you can see a few things that are up on the top here. I don't know if you can see at the very top on the one section. There's the green alien baby from Delta and the Bannerman. That's kind of an interesting little item.
The actual prop from the story.
As far as I know,
from the greatest Doctor Who story of all time.
You got Cassandra up there.
Oh, you gotta laugh.
It looks wonderful, Keith.
Look at that! It's got a little brick wall.
I do need to take you down this way so you can. Let's turn to where we're going.
A real mecca. See, even the brick wall though looks like it could be the location of a 1970s Doctor Who story.
So
remember the Daleks.
And you've got the Earthshock era Cybermen.
That's beautiful.
Proper Cybermen. Proper.
Yes. Yeah, cool. The good one. And then let me take you over this way just for a minute.
I mean, look at the size of this, Facebookers. And if you're listening on the podcast, come and watch us on the YouTube show. This place is massive. Where are you taking us now? Where are we going?
I was just wondering that. There can't be more. There can't be another wing.
Ah.
Oh,
it's the VR room.
It says Star something on that. But
that's the Star Trek Voyager game, and there is our Doctor Who pinball machine.
There it is.
I don't know what he's talking about, but I recognise that Doctor Who pinball machine. I remember those being in the pubs back in the 90s. Do you know what?
This is what gets me. I remember playing those in pubs here in the UK in the 90s. And there it is, one live and flashing beautifully and looked after so well in America. Who would have thought it?
Still
and that's on free play, so people get to come here and play it. They don't have to put coins in anything. So.
Oh, wonderful!
What a generous man. I noticed you've got a seating area there, Keith. Now, what goes on there?
You got a what? Oh,
you've got an area
table. So we keep some games that people can play while they're here, and so they can hang out and play games and the Doctor Who Risk is open and the Doctor Who Monopoly, and sometimes people will play those while they're here.
How fab.
And then we've got kind of a wall here of autographs and different things.
It's a real hub and retreat for any
going over a bumpy spot.
Doctor Who fan from anywhere in the world. I think I think if I ever do make it over to the States, I've got to come and see this.
I would love to go there. I would spend an entire couple of days in there, actually. But, I would spend a lot of money with you, Keith. I really would.
Come and shake your hand and see your stock.
I can show you a little bit if you're interested in some of the older items that we've got. Since I know.
Go ahead.
Hang on. How old are we talking? Is this going to make us feel ancient now?
1965 Dalek plate at the top. 1965 Dalek Rolican up there.
Hang on a minute. Let's just keep the camera there. Got that.
That's the Daleks game.
I'm reassured to see some things that I do own, but there's lots of things that I've never even seen out in the wild. Peter Davison jigsaws in particular.
There, I've got at the bottom a nursery Dalek. You can see the blue nursery Dalek there at the very bottom.
Yeah, got those.
Fabulous. I've got the Battle for the Universe. I've got the Battle for the Universe Sylvester McCoy game.
Yeah. And there's the Dapol stuff. Dapol. Oh, and the Dennis Fisher stuff. You've got a Dennis Fisher Cyberman. I hate you. Give it to me.
I've got two of them.
It is extraordinary. How
I am missing the Cyberman and the Dalek from my Dennis Fisher collection. I've got everything else.
Yeah.
Oh, you've got
one
two.
that's in the normal condition, all lost in silver, and then I've got a full robot, which is nice with the box, and then I've got a Cyberman that's still got the silver gloss, which is nice.
Beautiful, absolutely gorgeous.
Hard to find those. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's quite a bunch of Dapol in there. So.
How often do you dust?
Gets through the Mr. Sheen, I would imagine. Industrial
I can't be bothered a lot of the time, I have to say.
Well, I think that's why he's got display cabinets, so he can just sort of wipe the doors down. There's a Earthshock Cyberman gun, Sontaran spacecraft. My God. I
mean, this is actually fantastic because what you can see here, people that are watching on the YouTube channel, is this is the must place. You've got to go and visit this. If you are in America, you've got to make your way down there or connect with Who NA. I mean, look at all this lovely stuff that you can see there. And then the other side of the place, you can go and shop and get some great stuff from here in the UK that we do take an awful lot of our stuff for granted over here, of course. I mean, I've seen a lot of the Toys R Us exclusive there as well for the 50th anniversary. How wonderful.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things, especially those are statues there, and then we've got a lot of the bigger figures over here.
Yes, I'm so impressed that you managed that all these people came over to say to you, "Can you stock all this, Keith?" It really is an achievement that you have all this stuff here.
And then just for fun, over here are some of our custom figures. So you can there's a TARDIS Optimus Prime in there, and there's a.
It does feel like
Red Dalek offering you a Coke can. That's kind of when we.
It does feel like they're traveling the decades of Doctor Who fandom, looking across Keith's shelves here. Certainly, lots of items some that I do own, and some that I've always wanted, and some that I'm happy to covet for the rest of my days.
So lots of fun stuff. So we're really happy. We're happy with the shop. It's like I said, it's a lovely building, and we're really happy that we can show people everything that we've got here. So.
What's the name of your Cyberman? Does he have a name?
You can call him Bob.
I thought he'd have a name. I was convinced he'd have a name. You still enjoy collecting then for yourself too, Keith?
Yeah, I mean, there's always stuff I end up looking for. Most of the stuff I like anymore, probably trying to find is 70s Fourth Doctor items. Those are the ones that I'm kind of really into, just because that's when I started it. But I also I don't have any of the early 60s Mark's bagatelles, so that would be one thing I'd love to have in the museum. So
yeah.
Those were beautiful art. I love the 60s art.
Yeah, they are unique, and when you look at the stuff they're churning out today, they stand alone because they are all done by hand. The colours are gorgeous. I've only ever seen one in my life, actually, Keith, just to let you know, and that was actually at a collector's fair, similar to what you've got there. It was just purely for show. They wouldn't sell it at all, but it was in beautiful condition. Right. Gorgeous things that you just don't tend to get these days.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it. If you like, I will go switch back to the other one, and you guys can chat for a second.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, can't thank you enough for showing us around your store there. The 20 years worth of growth in retail in such a niche area as well, JT, and to be with the property, with the franchise through this transformative period. You know, we've watched it from the sofa, and you know, you're a big collector. I'm a reasonable collector. I have a collection, but to see it all laid out like that, that's, I don't know, that's kind of awe-inspiring. It makes me want to go and sort of check out, have I got this? Have I got that? Get it all out the way that you have. You think, oh no, I'm letting myself down here by not having enough out on display. There's that side to it too. But it does, when you see it all lined up that way, the legacy, the lineage of Doctor Who and Doctor Who merchandising really does hit home. And just as you said, all those miles away, all those time zones away. And
it's amazing to see that it's all there, and it's in America, and it's a great now that to be able to say, when somebody says to me when they're in America, where can I get this from? I know exactly where to send them, and I know it's probably going to be in stock with Keith. That's wonderful. But again, just the presentation of the shop there, as well as the stock, looks fantastic. It's exciting. I can just feel, you know, I would get excited as soon as I walked through the doors there and was met by Keith and his lovely staff. I would just be like, okay, you lot don't matter for a minute. I'll see you in a couple of days. Whoosh.
You just want it to be a destination experience. You know, you walk in and there's always something you can do. And no matter how long you look, you're going to miss something because, you know, there's so much stuff to look at on the walls and everywhere. So up high, down low. So, yeah.
It seems to me like we've seen your shop, we've seen your museum, we've heard about your fandom, and we've heard about the relationships that you've got, not just with other retailers, but with the licensees, the people who make Doctor Who items as well. But is there any item, any idea that you have harbored for, I don't know, the last year, the last 5 years, 10 years, or even 20 years, an item, a line of merchandise, or just one thing where you think to yourself, I can't believe they've never produced this?
Well, to be perfectly honest, the one item that I really wish they did produce that they actually did a mock-up of is they did a Dalek play case. They did and released that. That was fantastic. It's one of the best Doctor Who items ever. They also did a mock-up of the TARDIS that would open up with the little figures, the Master, and all that. I wish they would have done that and released that. I love those micro figures with the little Dalek Rollikin type things in them. They were fantastic. That was just
the Bluebird stuff.
Yeah, the Bluebird. Yeah, brilliant. It's one of my. I think it's one of the most ingenious toys, and I believe Stephen Walker is the one who designed that. And of course, he's doing the Space 99 Eagles and that sort of thing. So he's quite the designer.
Who NA, Who North America is open for business. Of course, if you're in the area, go and see Keith. Is it just you, or do you have a game set of companions there that help you out?
It's usually me Monday through Friday. Doug is here on Saturdays to help out too, and then we've got a couple people who actually help out on different events and things like that who are regulars. So you know, there's a couple people, but during the normal week, it's pretty much manageable by me. There have been times in the past where we had to have more people just because the amount of stuff we were putting out, but it's not that level any longer. So you know, it's just now.
But as you said, your business is 50. Your business is 50% in store and 50% online. So tell us about your website.
Correct. Yeah, and as you go into the website, the first section you see with the Doctor Who items is going to be what's the latest items that have come out. So you know, your recent releases are all the things that are probably within the last month that have been released. So if we've got the latest Doctor Who magazine, it should be on there along with any new DVD or Blu-ray releases that have come out. And then as you go to different subcategories, you'll find more deeper into our inventory of what we've got, and that's how our website has always been arranged, is that if you want to find the actual all we have, you just go into the section that interests you. So if you want to see all the action figures, toys, and games we've got, you go to that. Once you're in there, there's another section for all the 5-inch character options toys, and they'll all be there, everything we've got in stock. So
and you keep it updated, I would imagine, pretty much most days.
Anything comes in, it gets put on the website. So it's always up to date, unless there's a glitch somewhere where somebody bought something in the store and for some reason didn't update on the website. So that has happened lots of times, but most of the time it's smooth.
Obviously, the profile of Doctor Who in the States, it's let's keep this diplomatic. It's been higher, hasn't it? But we are on the threshold of that renewal that JT was talking about earlier on, and obviously these things can't happen overnight. But here at Type 40, we're hopeful of a for a 60th anniversary, which is going to reignite the flame with a lot of people who've forgotten how much they love the show, how much it means to them. Certainly in Britain, I think that translates all over the world. What are your thoughts? How are you looking forward to the 60th anniversary there at Whovians? And have you got anything planned? Anything you're going to do in the store to mark the momentous anniversary?
Oh, I'm glad you asked that. I'm actually looking forward to what they're doing. When Doctor Who was doing well with the new series in the United States, it was when it was on the Syfy channel back to back with Stargate SG-1. That was kind of their flagship program at the time, and people would tune into that and catching Doctor Who, and that's really when it took off in the States. Yeah, it was on BBC America, but that was a much more limited cable channel. Syfy channel at the time was doing real well. Of course, we're past the days of cable, and now we're in streaming services. Disney Plus is one of the biggest streamers in the world, that Netflix and Amazon Prime. Those are kind of your big three. So now that's on one of the big threes, that's actually probably good. I don't think there's going to be, a lot of control by Disney, because Disney's let all their properties kind of go which direction, most of them downhill. So I think Russell T Davies will be able to handle things okay, because I don't think he's going to, sabotage his own show. No. So I'm not one of these people who are negative on it. I think actually it's going to bring it to a wider American audience again, because since Capaldi, very little availability of it on U.S. stations as far as being able to see it. So that's actually good for streaming services. For the 60th anniversary, we do a big event every year called Doctoberfest. And so for the 60th anniversary, our Doctoberfest will be bigger than ever. So that'll be coming up in 2023. There was 2022s, and we just did this past year. So, how
was it? What does it involve? Tell us a bit more about that, especially for those of us that, are out of America.
Yeah, Doctoberfest it's kind of a family fall festival. It's almost like a small mini convention as well. And this year's was the first time we did it in two locations. We had both the store and we had a hotel 8 miles away. So we used all the ballrooms at the hotel and their hallway to have vendors and have Zoom call guests. So we did that over there. And then we offered free shuttle service throughout the day. So you could come here, get on the shuttle service, go over there. It was a really nice shuttle service. It was owned by a limo company. So all the seats inside were leather. It could handle 30 people plus. And it was just absolutely gorgeous, and just nice shuttle service between the two. It's totally free to attend.
He thinks of everything, JT.
Sorry?
He thinks of everything, JT.
Well, I think, how many people did you get along to this year?
Several hundred. I'm not sure exactly the exact numbers, because there were a lot of people here, a lot of people there, and again, they're constantly moving back and forth between the two locations. We only sell tickets for the panels and Zoom calls. So if you want to see the panels and Zoom calls, because we have to pay the actors and everything like that, you have to buy a ticket. Everything else for the shopping doesn't cost you anything. You can go into the vendor hall there at the hotel. You can come into the store and shop. There's no ticket required for any of that. So, we're trying to keep it to where it's, economical. But if you want to go the next step and see what else we've got going on, then you can go to those panels and stuff. So.
Oh, it sounds brilliant. Really,
it's a one-day only thing, so it's just a one-day event, and it's like a mini convention. So
that's all you need one day, really, because you go along, you have fun, you buy lots of stuff, you got to go home. You need the Sunday to relax, don't you?
Yeah. And then you got
sleep.
We had a Punch and Judy show going on here. The three Punch and Judy shows here at the store, and the third one was just packed out. People were laughing. It was so good. Just it's a professional Punch and Judy show. It's put on by somebody who does that. That's his career. He does Punch and Judy shows. So he does a lot of Renaissance festivals and fairs, and then he does us. He's a Doctor Who fan as well. So he incorporates Daleks into it, and it's really funny. So,
really?
Oh yeah. He incorporates Doctor Who into it. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. And then we also have games that people get to play to win tickets, which they can redeem for prizes. So, you buy tokens, go play the games. And then we have a balloon animal person outside doing balloon animals. And
oh my God.
have food outside where people can get their food. And so, yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's all, like I said,
it makes me want to come over. I just don't know where Indiana is. I mean,
this is the thing. I can imagine.
We're about 4 hours away from Chicago, Illinois, if that helps. So
I can imagine there's a lot of.
We're kind of straight south, a little bit east. So
I can imagine there's a lot of people listening and watching this who are thinking, I wish I could get there. I feel like I'm missing out. This all sounds fantastic. where can they keep updated about you? So you've got this event that's coming next year. There's all of that. Where is the best place that they can keep track of what you're doing, as well as find out where you're based, what's in stock? Which social medias do you do? Where can they connect with you?
Well, you can always use our forum. It's on our top of our website. There's a link there to the forum. That's always a good one. And our website, also our Facebook is very active as well. So that's facebook.com/Who North America. So you can always check that out, and we'll always put the events there, and you can see what's going on with that. So there's lots of ways. That's most Facebook and our forum are the two key ways that you'll find out about things. So
fabulous.
Most active. This is really, really scratched an itch. People can bookmark that and hit you up for Christmas presents or Christmas presents any time of the year or year. You can guarantee that even in a building, a warehouse, a location like Keith's, there must be. He's probably got whatever it is that you're looking for throughout the decades of Doctor Who's long history in merchandise. He's probably got it nestled somewhere on one of those beautifully clean shelves that we saw on that tour. That was very kind of you to show us through your store like that. And we wish you continued success as the Who NA story rolls on too. How many years was it again? 24 years?
Since 1998. Yes, that's correct. So, yep. So 24
Silver
years.
Anniversary coming up. Lots of Silver Nemesis stuff out there, I think.
Yeah. Silver Anniversary falls on the 60th anniversary for the show, which is kind of neat. And that's fantastic. So
Keith, that's 2 celebrations you've got there, my friend.
There you go.
We'll make sure that there are all of the links to find Keith and Who NA and everything that he gets up to. They'll be in the show notes to the podcast and the description to the video track too on YouTube. So you'll be left in no doubt. We like to make sure we do some of the work for you here at Type 40, but that's the old girl starting up and calling time on another edition of our show. I'll be back with another one soon. Look out for that wherever you found this. It could have been on the dedicated home feed for Type 40. That's at type40.podbean.com. Maybe we rolled up on the podcatcher of your choice. That's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeart Radio, TuneIn, Google Play, Amazon Music. We're absolutely everywhere. You name it. You can be certain you'll find us somewhere there. We're on YouTube, the world's largest streaming platform, here on the Spacebook channel. And of course, we're still on the fabulous Fandom Podcast Network's Master Feed. That's loaded up with so many treats for your ears. Never mind on the weekly. We get it to you on the daily. So please consider a trip sideways in time for more quality shows from the FPN there. Maybe you'd like to have your say about all of this. You can reach out to us through our social media on Instagram and Twitter at Type40Doctor or email us type40doctorwho@gmail.com. And if you're feeling really brave, you can even go and join us in the Type 40 Facebook group. That's full of generations upon regenerations worth of Doctor Who fans. We're there remembering the classic series heading up to that 60th anniversary, talking about new Doctor Who and speculating about what's to come in all new Doctor Who from the 60th anniversary, moving forward there with our brand new Doctor, Ncuti Gatwa, to take over in 2020. Oh, that's Christmas 2023. I think we've just found that out. Yeah, so that's next year too. So exciting. Those contact details again, Keith. You've got a Twitter handle, Facebook details. Give it to them again. Tell them again.
Our website is whona.com. That's our best place to start. And you will find us on Twitter at whona and on Facebook at Who North America. And you might even find us on Instagram too. So we're all over.
Got it covered.
Look us up, you'll find us.
It's the same approach to retailing as he does to social media. He's got it all covered. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram as the Spacebook, where I'm wheezing and groaning, ranting and raving about all things geeky inside and outside of the TARDIS, whatever catches my mind, my imagination, both in popular culture, in movies, TV, comics, all that kind of thing, and a little of the everyday life too. I do actually have an everyday life, as surprising as that may sound. But yeah, that's it for this time. JT, thank you for your company. As always, we'll see you, we'll hear you on Type 40 Live again very, very soon, won't we?
Absolutely. Yeah, and it was great to be here. And Keith, great to be chatting with you. And thank you so much for taking part in this really special show.
I really appreciate it. Enjoyed being with y'all and hope to talk to y'all again soon.
Yeah, we're going to hold you to that. We're going to bring you back next year. But that's it this time. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We always have the time. If you have the space here at Type 40, speak to you all again soon. Bye-bye.